Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. This is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chance Match Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I'm here with the Lion Voice. And we are partnering with I Never Knew TV to bring authentic Rastafari Pan-African content. And it's a great honor. I'm here, St. Thomas, Jamaica, Bulby, with a brethren who is doing wonderful works. And I'm very excited to bring this brethren's story to the world. We have here the Honorable Priest Lamont. Priest Lamont, please introduce thyself and give us, a background in terms of where they are born, where you're coming from. Who is Priest Lamont?
Thank you very much, Raskwasi, and for your Entourage TV. Well, Priest Lamont, and especially here in Bulby, where I was born.
Aile.
I was born in a house just a couple doors from where we are right now. So I was not born in Jubilee Hospital as most people are, but I was born right here on this premises. And I grew up here. And went to all the schools in the area. I became a school teacher very early. Shortly after I left high school, did a couple of years of teaching and was encouraged to go to teachers college because those senior teachers around who saw me teach thought that I was good at it. And so they told me I was a born teacher and encouraged me, despite I was telling them I was more looking to do something like medicine. But they thought there was much that I could offer to the education system. And so, I went to Michael Teachers College and did my certificate in education. Those days, it was not Michael University as it is now.
Okay.
It became that along the way. Like I said, I started early at 18 in the teaching, and I left Teachers College by the time I was like 22, 23,
Okay.
and went forward to the classroom again, teaching at Donald Quarry and so forth. And so that makes me a teacher who has taught at all the schools in the area from Bulby to Harborview, because I started at St. Benedict's. I left Teachers College, I went to Donald Quarry, and then after I left DQ, I was out for a while. I was in the Bobo Ashanti school for a while, and then I went forward into the government schools at Bulby All Age, which is just across from me over there. So I have taught in all the schools. So I am well known in this area. When you say Priest Lamont, old, young, and middle-aged, they'll know me. And when I started to try Rastafari, that was like an alarm bell. Because although two of my other brothers have been Rastafari for many, many years, I came up basically as a youngster in the church. So, I was very godly inclined from early. And, when people saw me growing my locks, they were like, some people used to mock and say, you used to fight against your brother them and now you put on locks and praise in Rastafari. And I would just laugh and say, that's how powerful Rastafari is. He can make you do the things that you never dreamt. So, yes, my trek as Rastafari started quite early in my late 20s. And since then I have been living the faith I love it. I would not change it for anything else. And I intend to do the most that I can for this liberty because it satisfies the searching of my mind and the longing of my soul for something that is real, filling, and true, and satisfying that I can identify with without feeling any way less or left out or needing to catch up or wanting to be. Because it is teaching me about myself as a Black person and the way that I can vision my creator in a way that I can identify with without, again, as I say, having to be questioning and wanting to be. And so coming up in the church and having all those questions about who am I and my relationship and my relation with other races and God. You know, I wonder that, is it a reason that the God that I am seeing is not exactly like me? And I became more African aware from an early age. So before I became Rastafari, I was African oriented and focused on Africa because I found out what it meant to me. I realized that my origin would have to be there. And how did I find out that? Because we were not taught about we are Africans and all those things when we were young and we were going to school, not even now. But in those days, this river that you see goes by here, there's a confluence just around the corner where it meets another river. And along that path, those days as a child, trucks used to come and, you know, dump like garbage. And of course, you know, when those rich, affluent people have their books that they don't need anymore, they would just throw them out and trucks would come and dump books and magazines, all kind of stuff in the riverbed. And we, whenever we know that there are books there, we used to, you know, just go and rummage through to see if anything that, you know, worthwhile was there for us. And of course, we were kids, we were not master readers. So, you know, we are looking for books with pictures, you know. So you would take up some big books and it's just words and, you know, you just throw those down because what the heck. And as I rummaged through Kwasi, I saw a magazine, but it was showing like ruined places, ruined cities. And just the look of it interests me. And I took it up. And when I looked at it, I realized there was a map of Africa and it was talking about Africa. And so I took my time and I tried to read as best as I could. But I realized that it was saying that it was talking about Egypt and in the days when the Christ was said to go to Egypt. And of course we hear about Egypt, but that sounded like we're somewhere in the heaven, in the skies. And we never thought of Egypt as Africa. No one taught us in school when we talk about Egypt and Pharaoh that this was Africa and the Black people, because there is no icon to show you anything. And so I started to read about Egypt. And of course we know about Egypt a lot because every Good Friday, every holiday, them show some movie, whether the crucifixion or Moses taking the children of Israel out of Egypt and coming to the Red Sea. So we were quite familiar with Egypt and these kind of things, but not the slightest idea that Egypt had anything to do with Africa and what Africa even meant to us anyway. And then it says, in the time when Christ would have fled to Egypt, it was predominantly occupied by black people. And if Christ were white, he would have been so easily discovered by those who pursued him. And so it was definitely not possible for a white Jesus to go and hide in a black Egypt in those days. And that made sense to me. And it went on to show that Christ must have been some way a black person. And as I read about the 3 wise men who went to visit the Christ child. And it asked the question and answered it, because it said, these people are taught about as if they are some people that you know nothing. They are so far in antiquity that only what you hear now exists of them. There is no history. There is no record of the 3 wise men. That's how they made it look. And then I realized that, oh, these who do you think these 3 wise men were? They were actually 3 black men. The king of Ethiopia, the king of Afghanistan, and the king of Arabia. Those are the 3 wise men that they talk about in the Bible, you know. No one has ever taken any time out to tell us those things. And when I saw it in that magazine, I took it home and I spent a lot of time reading. And so I came up with that African consciousness, realizing that there's something black about Christ. Because I was an ardent Christian, I tell you, Kwasi. And it pleased me to know that when I pray, I'm praying to God that look like me. But if you tell someone that them say, you're stupid, you blaspheme, don't say that. God can't be black, man. So one day I was talking with the priest of the Catholic church that I used to go to, because I was actually mentored by this priest. He eventually became the Archbishop of Kingston. He was the Archbishop of Montego Bay and then the Archbishop of Kingston. And he is now retired, you know, but he was a very vibrant priest in those days, Father Charles IV. And, you know, he liaised well with the youths. And I was able to talk to him because, you know, he really liked my ability to talk and just to. So one day I was talking with him in the church. I don't think it was more than about 4 or 5 of us altar servers. And I said, Father Charles, how did the first picture of Christ came about? And you know, he looked at me. He said, no, but why do you ask me that question? I said, Father, is it true that he's a black man? And that when Mary Magdalene wiped his face with her scarf, the face of Christ was on it? And he was like, who told you those things? And there's a name for that picture. I don't remember it. But I told him, and he said, so he said, he started to tell me that you know that the headquarters of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is in Rome. And I'm saying, yeah, but that's Ethiopia supposed to be about black. And he said, oh yes, there are so many things you don't know, Norman. And you know, one day he went on a trip and he came back and he brought a painting of St. Francis and he put it up in the church. And he said, Norman, I brought this to show you. St. Francis is a black man. And you know, I those things helped me when I decided that the church was not the place for me. And I was just there for a while, a couple of years I was just there, you know. I'm not associating with any churchism because the Christian church just wasn't answering the questions. So, you know, I looked and I said in my life, I need to be praised. There is a divine power. And I questioned myself and I said, I have tried all of the people that I know. I read about Buddha. I read about Krishna. I read about Baha'u'llah. I read about Muhammad. Jesus, I studied Jesus still more than I study myself. And many things about those philosophies did not satisfy my question of how I really relate and how am I related to when I meet up other people, especially people that are not of color. And I said Rastafari, but remember I come up around my brothers who were Rastafari and it was the most ridiculous thing to me. But when you look at the reality, when I read in the Bible and I see words like Ethiopia in Genesis chapter 2, these Bibles today, they delete words like that. They put land of Cush and land of Ham and all those things. But long time Bibles, when I was a youth, you would see they talk about the 4 rivers that divide into 4. And one is Euphrates and one is Gihon and Pishon and this and that. And one is it that passed through the whole land of Ethiopia. So, you know, I used to say to my brethren, you know, say, Ethiopia is the first place on earth mentioned in the Bible. And then when I said, no, man. And I'm going to say, yeah, man, check it out, man. That's true, man. And, you know, when I decided to try Rastafari, and when I sum up some things, Kwasi, it mattered more than everyone else.
Speak about how you know, from Rastafari, the journey to Bobo Ashanti now, because Bobo Ashanti is one of our orders within the family of Rastafari, but it's very strict, you know, has a reputation for being very strict, very orderly, and it's not the first choice of most ones, you know. Why or what drew the eye to the Bobo Ashanti order?
All right. As a researcher, and someone asked me one day, if you were to get one wish, you know, that can make you do anything or be anything or anything that you want, if you could wish for anything that you want, what would you wish for? And, you know, I thought, and I just said, you know, to truly understand the power of the divine. And that has been one of I value that more than a lot of money. Because as far as I have come to understand, that power somewhere reside in I and I, within an individual, within you, you know, within I. That's my realization that I came to. And, you know, my question is how well I can prove that against all, you know, odds, everything else, to really understand that the divine is in I. You know, is how I really analyze it, cognize it, you know, utilize it. Because I come to realize, Pasquasi, that is you have to tell yourself that God is. Because God is not going to come from anywhere to whisper in your ears and say, Kwasi, I am. You know, so I continue to search. I search the scripture and I search the history, the books. And then I saw King Emmanuel. And even though I had seen Bobo Ashanti in a vision before I come to the reality of the Bobo Ashanti tradition, I still never link up the vision with Bobo Hill, now King Emmanuel, when I got the vision. Because I got the vision like 4 years before I got to Bobo Hill. And I wrote it and gave it to my empress to put down. Because I did not understand it, but it was such a strange vision that it just wouldn't go away unless I write it down. And it's long after that I realized that, this is it. But Bobo Ashanti tradition brings to me more fullness of what I was searching for. It's about what you're looking for, you know. So let's be careful what you look for you may just get it. Well, I am glad I found Bobo Ashanti tradition. And I'm not saying that it's perfect in everything, but it is good to my conscience in most of its teachings. I may find issue with some of its principles, but the basic teaching of King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, glory to this great teacher. It has brought much fullness to my livity as an African and as a person who is seeking the power of the divine. Because he brought me to a greater clarity of Emperor Haile Selassie I, the most beneficent, divine, immaculate, magnanimous majesty. And when I realized that there was a teaching of praise and worship to this man, I found everything. Because I knew that he was deserving of praise. And I have been to places and I saw that praises were offered up for him. But at the same time, I found it here in a way that is more filling to my search. I find that he was more revered and worshipped as a holy, glorified God that I see other, ways of worship glorify and praise and venerate and pay homage to this divine source that can make you be like him, that can make you be him, And when I realized that this him is a man and the reality of the fantasy that they were telling you doesn't have to be that fantasy. It can be real and still be real. I like that. I like that much. Because I tell you, and I just thought I found heaven when I went to Bobo Ashanti, And yes, I find it quite satisfying to certain what I would call traditional levity as a man of irids and a real and an African and a black man. So it's like the compass coming full circle. I can feel good of myself and have a God that I can hold on to because I'm on look and wonder, and my track to Bobo Ashanti is a blessed day. When I went there, I saw some of the vision manifested, but I still never read it until long after I was reading with a priest, a couple of weeks after, and I remembered it because the vision had gone out of my head. And even when I was there, it never came forward to me. But I was reasoning with a brethren one night. We were sitting at the door of one of the priests after Sabbath, and we were talking, and somehow it just flashed forward to me, And I said to the brethren, Priest Clive, I said, Priest, I got a vision. And the same thing that the brethren said to me at the gate when I reach here, and some things that happen, in the vision. And it's true, but that time I was the priest, And him say, Prophet, yeah. And, they look at me as if they really wonder if it's true I was talking, And I said to him, say, you know, I said, I draw it. I draw all of what I see night and I write. And I give to my Empress to put up. And so this Sunday, the morning, you know, because it was Saturday night, we were talking, and Sunday morning they went with me to my home, because I used to live in Garvey those days, and they, you know, I asked my Empress, I said, can you find, nobody give you a vision one time to, and she said, oh yes, I think I can find it, you know, and she searched and searched and she found it. And you know, I said, wow, it's vision. See the vision here. And Mark, I had asked a lot of people to interpret it and they couldn't. But when I got there in the tabernacle, the first day Ras Tafari, and these things helped to keep me, because I know that the master has called me. Because when we were in the tabernacle, you know, the leading priest would, coming to the end of the service, he would go up to the father, you know, to King Emmanuel, to get the final words to tell the people, because sometimes Jah would be sitting in his palace, he wouldn't come into the congregation. So, you know, priest would go up to the palace and get the word from Jah, and then he would come forward and give the congregation the word that the father said, and, you know, the final scripture and the final hymn and chorus. And so he said, you know, the father gave me a chorus, you know, but I don't know the ear of it. And when I ask him said, my Lord, go on. Someone in the tabernacle will know the ear. Just tell them the ear. Just tell them the chorus. And when the priest said it, you know, and I was new, might have been my first time in the tabernacle. So, you know, this is a street. This is a sight I have never seen before. First of all, I must tell you, when you reach Bobo Ashanti, especially in those days, Ras Tafari, you're just not in Jamaica. You're in a different place. The setting, whole thing was, you know, just new. And even the tabernacle was a new thing, you know, everyone in there white and red, gold, and green, and everything was just so immaculate. And, you know, I see Marcus Messiah Garvey and the altar in the background, and, you know, King Emmanuel and King Emperor Haile Selassie, and I'm saying, wow, in a place where you're praising a Trinity that is three black man, you know. I wouldn't even, and you know, you have to take off your shoes and all that, so, you know, just to speak in a place like that where you don't even know if you have any authority to speak. And no one was giving the ear to the chorus, and I was just there edging, and I'm saying, but I know it. So I just said, Moses, Moses. But you know, they sing at a different pace from the way I was accustomed to singing, because, you know, the Naya Bingi is a different pace from ordinary singing. So, you know, one of the brethren said, yes, I remember it, you know, but, you know, they couldn't sing it the way I started it. So he said, all right, yes, man, I remember it now. And so just take it over and start, you know. Moses, Moses, take off your shoes from off your feet. And, you know, the chorus just rang out, and, you know, but it was so spectacular that him said, the father said, someone in the congregation will know it. Because when him tell the chorus, and them tell him to the father, give me a chorus, but I don't, who know the ear. It did the custom in the Bobo Ashanti tabernacle, when a hymn is read or a chorus, if you don't know it, you say, you know, anyone who knows the air of this chorus or the air of this hymn is free to rise it. Those who do not know, please patient to listen and eventually join in. So, you know, having seen that from the service started till we're coming down to the end of it now, we're in the evening, this is the evening service, you know, and no one had started it, so I just dared to start it. But I always remember that. I said, wow, just someone in the congregation. Matter of fact, when I was going into the tabernacle, they were singing like a hymn that they said, welcome my son. So in the evening when everything was over, Priest Linden said, Prophet, you know, something special about you, you know. God, you come in when welcome my son was singing, something like that, you know. But I think I am well known among the Bobo Ashanti family. And whilst I don't think everyone loves me, I know that everyone respects me because I am who I am. I talk about the things that that pertains me and the things that I care about or have concern about. I was never afraid to ask questions. Even when I talk with King Emmanuel, you know, I was not afraid to ask him questions. Some people, you know, thought, one like him and Jeff, one like him and got a friend, you know, but of course he was my friend, you know. So whilst I was very, you know, humbled in his presence, he was welcoming. And so I never have that fear to ask him a question, as if to think I would dare to question God, because I wasn't asking him a question to challenge his knowledge. I would ask him a question to satisfy my questions, you know. And so, you know. But the Bobo Ashanti tradition, as you say, it's great. It has values that can help I and I to live right, to live good. We learned that, you know, Ethiopians study war no more. We're going to lay down our sword and shield. King Emmanuel said we will be on the mountainside watching Babylon run red, you know, because we're done beat with sword and with weapons into farming tools, you know. So we're not aiming to fight any war, you know. And we see, you know, King Emperor Haile Selassie says, you know, today for us, tomorrow it's you. But there's something, as I touched that point, that I looked at. I looked at this former French, finance minister, who is talking about that France need now to take a stand to crush this new African vision. I don't know how many people saw that thing on TikTok, but it's a dirty thing for him to come out and say something like that France need to be careful, because if they lose their power in Africa, their children will be going to Africa to seek their future, you know, and stuff like that. And he's calling on these evil powers, France and its allies, to get together to crush this new African vision. So I'm looking at the heinousness of people even in the now, to think that these people could be still thinking that we are not able to take care of ourselves. Africa manage the world, they have no history. So we see the kind of disrespect that they have for us. And this is a time that we have to unite. And that's why I have encouraged Bobo Ashanti brethren to look at the RMO. Because if you notice, when the evil world is going to do things, they talk about, let us get together. They have all kinds of names that they call themselves, or the different coalitions that they have brought themselves into.
What is the RMO? You have to define
now,
it for the people.
The RMO is the new gathering of Rastafari to
In
itself,
Jamaica.
the Rastafari mansions and organizations. By mansions, of course, you know, Rasquasi, that we are talking about the groundation of Rastafari movement in Jamaica, the birthplace, the cradle of Rastafari, which is the Bingi, the Bobo Ashanti, and the 12th tribe. Those are the known mansions that have nurtured and guided people of all walks unto this glorious teaching of the High Majesty. And so the Rastafari mansions and organizations would of course refer to those, you know, groups, those ones that have Rastafari brethren that have created different, you know, services to the Rastafari people, you know, in private services, yet services that are good for the Rastafari community. And so we thought that if there are those organizations that are manifesting Rastafari work, then of course we all need to get together and create a voice that can be effective and powerful and definite. Because of course it is quite aware that we have been greatly challenged and handicapped, victimized, and brutalized because of lack of unity. And we have become disunited because effort was made by Babylon to divide us. And so this division has continued even into the now, where we are not as united as we used to be. And so that is capitalized on by Babylon. When our rights are to be given and recognized, Babylon would use the division to hinder us from utilizing those rights or, accepting our rights. And for this reason, they have been able to imprison us, to abuse us, and all the various things, disenfranchise us in whatever way. They can cut a Rasta man's locks or a Rasta woman's locks. They can tell your child, don't come to the school because you have locks. You're with no Rasta here. Even in the recent times, we see low integrity words and action, as Rasta have 40 leg in him head and Rasta have lice in him head. Now, when I was a child, I knew lice when I was a child. I've not seen it since I'm Rastafari. But when I was a child, it is bald-headed people who do have no locks used to have lice. But when we look at the kind of low-minded, approach that they give to Rastafari, you see all these talk come from even high society people that you would not have expected even to think that kind of, degraded way. To think, Rasta have locks in there because him is Rasta, something is wrong with him. And so the Rastafari mentioned an organization. It's aimed to deal with all these issues of Rastafari rights that a one individual will not be able to assail because they have put up that amount of barriers against I and I. So now is the time, and because we are glorifying King Emperor Haile Selassie I as our divine teacher and guidance, I and I as Bobo Ashanti holds to the Honorable Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey as well, and the Holy Melchizedek, King Emmanuel Charles Edwards. So we see these eyes and individuals as the divine. And because of that, and that they have all spoken, that we are to organize ourselves, or we are to centralize ourselves then and organize so that we can become self-sufficient and we can become a power or an energy, to contend with. King Emmanuel would say, my Lord, unity is so great, my Lord. My Lord, if you take a stick of match, my Lord, and you just snap it like that, my Lord. But, my Lord, if you take 12 of them, my Lord, and put them together, my Lord, that takes a lot more effort to snap them, Majesty. And I would say, oh, yes, Majesty. Yes, my Lord. And, it shows, the importance of I and I coming together. King Emperor Haile Selassie was very plain and straight and clear when he said, centralize yourself and organize. And he is the God. He is the Most High. If he says that, who are we not to follow that? Who are we to try to retard that? Then you would be playing the devil's advocate. Because if God gives a command and you you don't obey it, and you're doing something different, it means you're working against God. And we have to be aware, and we have to be quick in putting aside all differences and get ourselves together, or else we are going to be crushed. Because it's quite clear.
So for the uneducated, you speak of Honorable Charles Edward Prince Emmanuel. Give a history, because this is a wider platform. Many ones will not know who you are talking about, why he's so revered and praised by the Bobo Ashanti. So give a history of, Prince Emmanuel.
Thank you. Started, first of all, in Bakawal. People call it Kiwak, Akiwak. And of course, it's the cradle of the Rastafari movement too. But Bongo Eddie, as King Emmanuel was called in those days, was there at that early beginning, amongst all the stalwarts. And he was one who spoke vigorously from that time for the rights of the people. Because he might not have started out as churchical as he became along the way, or developed into along the way. But he was always agitating for the rights of the black people. And he did that because he was a follower of Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Honorable Prophet. And being a Garveyite, he saw the importance of continuing the work of Marcus Messiah Garvey. And so he was always at the government entity, because many of them that became the leaders of the political government, of course, they were all there together in downtown Kingston, where most of the reasoning used to take place, in what we now call St. William Grant Park. And there's that big fig tree. It has been there for ages. And, they used to gather there. And many things were discussed there. And the King Emmanuel was always agitating for the rights of the people. And as the Rastafari movement developed, he eventually left Bakawal, because it started in Bakawal from 1958. He moved from different places in Bakawal, different addresses, until afterwards he came to Bull Bay. And
And explain to people that Bakawal was a slum.
Yes, Bakawal is in Trench Town. It was one of the most well-known ghettos. Might have been the first ghetto in Jamaica, the first slum community, where the very poor and the have-nots would be able to find their subsistence from whatever they could salvage, many times from the dumps, from outdated foods and reject goods. And that's where, he started. There was a place down there that they call Nazareth. Each place that, Jah would move from, they would give it different names, to signify. Because, see, we say King Emmanuel is the Black Christ. Of course, we are not trying to Jesusize him, but we see that he is under order of Melchizedek, because he has come with the order of the high priest, without which order it is said that Israel should never be without the priestly order, or the king, or the prophet. It has been our tradition from that time till now. All we read about in the Bible of these people, they are black people. Most of the people, most of the icons and the characters of the Bible are black people. But you see, the knowledge has been thwarted. And through 500 years of slavery, they have managed to change it around, and they have whitewashed most of our black history. And so we learn of ourselves as a different person, a different set of people. So these are some of the things that King Emmanuel has come to help us to realize, that we don't have to be Jesus people. We don't have to be Christians, but we can be divine people. We can be holy people. We can be righteous people, upright people. We are people of integrity. These are the kind of things King Emmanuel would inculcate in us. He would let us understand that clearly. You don't need to feel any way less. You need to know that you're a God, because God is man. Righteous man is God in flesh, and righteous woman is goddess in flesh. I love the man for that teaching. I remember there was one day I was at Bunny Whaler's house, you know, off the Weymouth Drive. And, you know, I had taken some brethren there to do some recording for him. And because I'm a Bobo Ashanti, and especially we were not as united as we are now, where a Bobo can just appear up at a bingy place, because they would have bonfire and say, take off your turban. And so, you know, like when I visit Bunny Whaler's place, I would just stay by the gate, and my brethren would go in and do their thing. When they are finished, I just take them forward. But one Saturday evening, I took them there. I was still in my whites, and I was sitting at the gate, and he was talking. He was giving a lot of history, you know, about the elders that have trod in the tradition. And he spoke about all the various ones. I wouldn't want to call anyone name, but he mentioned all the icons. You know, God, and he talk about Bedward, he talk about Howell and Plano, all the elders. But then it came to the point where we came to King Emmanuel. And when he got there, he said, and you know, them have one up a bull be there. Bongo there call himself, say, I'm a God, I'm a Christ. And I don't know Rasquasi. I don't know when I reach from the gate to the veranda right in front of him like this, you know. I don't know how fast. And a lot of people were around, and I don't know, but I just said to him, Honorable my Lord, could you just stop there a moment and let me ask you a question? And the whole place went silent. And all my brethren that I took there was like, they would try to, like them would have said, you know, because like, oh, you dare to come on Bunny Whaler veranda and stop him from talking? And I said, my Lord, we all here praise Rastafari. But which of you, among all these elders, that has come to teach us to praise Emperor Haile Selassie as a holy, a righteous, and a revered God with a divine order? I said, and he looked at me, I said, but I see people out there praising their God with great reverence. Where is that for Emperor Haile Selassie the First? And him just sit back and look at me. And I said, my Lord, see Bongo Eddie, him tell we say, righteous man is God in flesh, and righteous woman is goddess in flesh. And I don't hear no one teach me that. And then he just looked at me and said, any man who teach man say righteous man a God in flesh, and righteous woman a goddess in flesh, this is how I forget praise. And I just stepped away. And I remember I went, the next time I got there, he was playing a tape about, you know, the Melchizedek order and so forth and so forth. And from that day, we became very, very, very good brethren. Very, very good brethren. Yes. But when it comes to the teaching of King Emmanuel, we are very passionate about that because it makes us total. We are not just a brother of God. We are God. The man teaches us that is you have to forgive yourself. You're not going to kneel down to pray and hear no one come tell you, say, Ras Kwasi, you forgive. Because if you hear the voice, they probably jump up and run and think it's a pray. So, you have to find the God in you, and he helps us to personalize that God in I and I, which I think helps us greatly. Amidst our differences, that's why Bobo Ashanti, you don't find many violent Bobo Ashanti. You don't find many Bobo Ashanti cussing bad word, and because he's about being properly attired. Because King Emmanuel, King Emperor Haile Selassie is the most well-dressed man. So most Bobo Ashanti, nowadays you will see some Bobo Ashanti with them shirt out of them pants and stuff like that. In the days gone by, you would never see that. Not even in our homes. When we rise up and we put on our clothes, we are ready. Like a soldier, he said, you must be ready in everything. So that's the kind of teaching that King Emmanuel gives us. And as Rastafari, he has made much effort to unite Rastafari. Many of the unity that he called in the time past, Ras Kwasi, ended up in turmoil. And he got the bitter end of it.
Yes.
Because most of the times when other Rastafari brethren did things like when them lick off the statue of Han, and when they did a lot of the things that happened when we gathered in those days, that caused Babylon to come and to mash us down. And, people getting badly beaten, of which King Emmanuel himself has been badly beaten many times. And so he has become very cautious about going out together in mass numbers until people learn to know the dignified order of Rastafari, that how we need to go out and how we need to present ourselves. And that is why he made a lot of representation to various governments. King Emmanuel is the Rastafari that is known to have written to every leader of the world, every African president, every government, Queen Elizabeth, you name them. He has become a regular communicator to Queen Elizabeth. He never stops reminding her that you must let the people go. Let my people go. Give me even the prisoner them. Give me all the sick people in the hospital. Just provide what we are to be provided with. Give us back what you've stolen, and take us from where you have stolen us from. He never stopped agitating and writing these letters to all governments of the proper emancipation and what real independence is, true freedom, and these things. And so the charter of King Emmanuel Charles Edwards is freedom, redemption, and international repatriation. Righteous man is God in flesh, and righteous woman is God in flesh. And we are equal to all, if not above. So that is our teaching.
One of the things I love about the Bobo Ashanti is the unique chanting, that Bobo Ashanti have. I trod through the Nyabingi order. I was called to the Nyabingi order. Nyabingi chant. They're very similar, but there are, distinctions in terms of the chanting style. Yeah. We heard, within the Nyabingi order that Prince Emmanuel came out of a Pocomania background, or Kumina. I wanted to know if you could, is that true that he, before that chanting style came about, that it was impacted by that? I know about Nyabingi. I know the Nyabingi order was influenced by Kumina and Pocomania in the early days of the trad before it, balanced into the 1-2. But give us some highlight in terms of was Prince Emmanuel, was he coming out of that African tradition?
Of course, King Emmanuel was known as, he was called Bongo Heady. And most of those bongo people in those days a lot of them were sort of Pocomania oriented. Some people call it barnyard.
Mm-hmm.
King Emmanuel, of course, it is said that in his early days, as a youngster, worked among one of those women who practiced that kind of, religious rites. So, of course, but the entire Jamaica, when you look at our tradition, what we know is the drums, whether Poco, Kumina. If you listen to Count Azzy and those brethren back in the days, if you listen to a song that they have named Carolina, and you listen to the drum and you listen and you see that Rastafari, because Rastafari is really chanting. A chant is somewhat different in its style from ordinary singing, even from reading of poetry, recitations, So the chanting in itself has caused the different tempo, and through the mystic revelation of the Most High, the Rastafari brethren have found the heartbeat within the funde, the kete, and the bass, signifying earthquake, lightning, and thunder. They say the kete is the lightning, and the funde is the earthquake, and the bass drum is the thunder. So from their working with music, with the instruments, because there was a time when it had a thing called a rumba box. I remember the bongo man them in those days when we used to go out to listen to them a few times. They used to have their clothes they never dressed like the ordinary people, of course. They understood these clothes long time. Maybe not the colors were not there, but the style, the making, and of course they never had locks. Most of them, a lot of them, they just bearded brethren. We used to call them beard man anyway. And of course the music founded itself there, and Rastafari, of course, came with the word Nyabingi, and it became our music. Nyabingi, there were times when we took issue to the theocratic reign of Rastafari being called the Bingi House, because we chant Nyabingi. We chant Nyabingi against the walls of Babylon. That's what we do at Bobo Hill. From 6 in the morning, when we rise up, at 6 o'clock, there must be the horn. And at that time, the drum must be sounding 7 times, because we start from like 5:30. Psalms reading is going up. 7 Psalms is being chanted. And by the time 6 o'clock, when the trumpet sounds, and then the drum is sounded, and the hail and chant unto the Most High and the death to Babylon and its wickedness is going up, and the praises going up, and the destruction of Babylon going down, from early. So Nyabingi in the Bobo Ashanti Livity is an order, it's a tradition, it's the music, it's the livity, it's the order, it's a Nyabingi order. It says death to down pressers. Whether you're black or you're white, you're dead to down pressers. We beat down wrong and we lift up right. So Nyabingi is the music that we chant. Basically, it's the livity. We're going to chant some bingi. Say the drum and the bass and the ketia. It's Nyabingi for us. That's Nyabingi. It's not so much of a set of brethren. So that's the difference with I and I, Bobo Ashanti, and how we use the word Nyabingi. It is for us, the order, basically surrounding the music. And our way of chanting our hymns and choruses, because we do a lot of that. It is said about Bobo Ashanti, the Bobo Ashanti way is a hymn book and Bible way. I mean, now young Bobo Ashanti brethren are trying to get away from too much of the kind of Christianized way that they see it. I think today too, young Bobo Ashanti brethren in the intermediary have come and over Christianized it too, you know, because of the lack of the segregation, the breakdown. Of course, most of the elders, a lot of the elders that know the real heartbeat 1-2 order, they are not really there on the foundation now. First of all, many of the patriarchs King Emmanuel had sent to Africa, the different states in Africa. Some are still there, some have been there until they have transitioned, but they are there. And the rest of I and I, we are not living on the foundation. In the days there were hundreds of Bobo Ashanti on the foundation. Since King Emmanuel has transitioned, a lot of Bobo Ashanti has returned to their places that they had come from all over the world. So most of the Bobo Ashanti brethren, there are more Bobo Ashanti abroad than in Jamaica now. The larger part of the Bobo Ashanti people are all over. Today, nowadays, we meet every Sunday. You know, right now there are different little, what I would call fractions, but there's a large gathering of elders that have formed the Elders Council. It is not something that was written in our constitution, but it's a practice that we have to admit and accept, because when you get to King Emmanuel's foundation, it's the elders there, and you better submit, and no one can go around that. There are those brethren who don't accept the fact of the Elders Council because they think it's not in the Constitution, and King Emmanuel never left it. The fact remains that the elders are the elders. They were there with him. They formulated a lot of it, and they have brought themselves together as a council. And, you know, I think they are doing quite well, you know. And, of course, we have that little unsettled, but we are still quite together. Bobo Ashanti meet every week, because if they are not meeting as the Women's Freedom Liberation League, they are meeting as there's a what they call an online parliament. Some people are not in agreement with it. And of course, there's the Elders Council. And there is, of course, a set of brethren at the foundation. Though a handful, they still keep the foundation going, and they have a great say. And so our matter is just to get those three basic, you know, part of I and I totally in tandem with each other. But there is a thing about Bobo Ashanti. There is nothing that will cause us so easily out there to disrespect or to dishonor. Like, no matter what, I'm still going to say Honorable Priest so-and-so or Empress so-and-so. We're not going to dishonor each other, because that's how we were cultured, you know. And that helps to keep I and I somewhat still knitted, because no matter what, you still have to see the brethren and say, blessed love my Lord, blessed love Empress, you know. So it sort of wipes away any room for animosity, too much. And I know there are little festering differences and so, but that the dangerous animosity where we just pass each other like that and so forth, you know, there's that familyness. And I think the Bobo Ashanti House is still well and able to lead the charge, you know, in freedom, redemption, and international repatriation, because that is our basic aim and our tenets.
Speak to some of the brutality that was faced by Prince Emmanuel by the authorities, while he was trying to put together the Bobo Ashanti order. It wasn't an easy tradition. So, just send some highlight on that.
All right. There have been times, of course, when most of the times that King Emmanuel has been brutalized, it's when he went out to try to create the unity. And of course, there was the most vicious one was when there was this gathering in the park. I think probably it was
1958.
Yes, and they broke the hand of a statue, probably by accident too. But ones use that as a means to, inflate things and push it out of context and use it, as a scapegoat just to beat Rastafari, because they were always seeking for. And so Jah was badly beaten, broke many ribs. And he was badly beaten, And I was not there at that time, but what I have heard and what I have read, that's one of the times that he was very badly beaten, and even at back a wall, he was beaten. He has suffered wounds and bruises for Rastafari more than most ones that I know that have been beaten, but because he has been beaten to the point of death, they beat him until they thought he was dead. A miracle brought him forward. So it's not like he was simply, he was beaten unto death. They sing the song, them pick him up, them lick him down in bunks right back. What a hard man for dead.
Mm-hmm.
Them say, a cat have 9 life, but this man has 99 life. That song was made describing King Emmanuel. Yes, King Emmanuel, he was talking about when he wrote that song, because it was right after the incident that song was written, to talk about, the ever-living life in the man, Yes. So, I can't give you blow-by-blow details, but I know that was one of the times when he was very badly beaten. And that song came about just by way of how he was beaten unto death, but never died.
So speak to Prince Emmanuel's stance on human rights. This brutality that was faced by Rastafari. You spoke about him coming to the public, and advocating for the rights of Rastafari. What was his stance on human rights? And we know he was active with United Nations in terms of writing letters, and speak to the legacy, the human rights legacy.
He actually became the first recognized Rastafari in those days that was dealing with the United Nations. He managed to gain their attention. He managed to gain the attention of Queen Elizabeth as someone that is defending the rights of the people, asking for 7 miles of high water vessels to take the children of Africa back to the homeland of Africa. He has written to all the governments, the news media rather. He had gone to all these media to reason face to face, and in his time when he stopped moving around, he sent letters after letters about the various issues. As a matter of fact, today, Bobo Ashanti don't write about world issues, but King Emmanuel would write about every atrocity that happened in the world to whatever leader. And he listened very steadfastly to his radio, and his gleaner had to be read to him. And he was fully aware of all the happenings, He was up to date with current events. And he would write to leaders, especially where it relates to or it involves black people and any atrocity that was being done to black people. He would write to them. He would write to African leaders to let them understand and know. He sent letters to Mengistu in Ethiopia. He sent letters to Babangida, to Bishop Desmond Tutu, to J.J. Rollins, to you name them. As long as there's an issue, especially when African leaders are doing things, he would write to them. And most of the times when they come to Jamaica, he would go out to meet them. And all the time when they see us, they recognized us as a people in a place that they are not known to be originally. There's no African leader that does not come to Jamaica and see us and recognized us as Africans by our presentation. Even if they are not Rastafari oriented, they see the kind of presentation that we have and they know these people are Africans, you know. So King Emmanuel agitated. He was well known to Hector Winter, who was the head of the Gleaner Company in those days. He was visited by all the high-ranking officials in Jamaica, the university lecturers. You know, they came there, they reasoned with him. They asked him questions about the Rastafari liberty and tradition and ideals. You know, he taught them. Professor Rex Nettleford, Professor Barry Chevan, students of all walks, they come and he would reason with them. And he continues to agitate for the rights of people right through his time. And I think that's what I and I, in the now, as the sons and daughters, need to be focusing on more seriously. There was a time when he wanted to get a letter to the Queen, and he did not want the message to be diverted. And he put a red, gold, and green flag, a red, black, and green flag together in a pouch with his letter, and he got a red, white, and blue envelope and put those items in the red, white, and blue letter and sent it to the Queen, you know. And it was in the red, white, and blue package. So, you know, sometimes you give them letters, they would throw them aside and stuff like that, you know. So, and when she opened it, you know, she saw the flags and the emblems. There's a saying, Rasquasi, that she said, there's a man in Jamaica who is not to be molested, because in time to come, his lords will be above her lords. I heard it. There are many ones who say that it's there. I've not seen it written, but it's one of the cultures of Bobo Ashanti, you know, because he's so well known as an agitator for human rights. He's hailed. Many Bobo Ashanti say he's the champion of human rights. And there are many documents that came to King Emmanuel that were diverted and taken away by the government too in those days, because especially there were times when they tried to send false addresses to the United Nations and to people. Especially there was a time when he moved from one place and letters were still going there, and we learned that there are many documents that went there that would have identified and put him in a more highlighted position as a human rights agitator. But those documents have been, you know, hidden and kept hidden. But of course, he's known that, he is one of the leading defender of the rights of black people, not just Rastafari. He never spoke for Rastafari alone. He always talked about black people. He said, if it's even those in the prison, because he said the black man really has not done anything wrong. It's the kind of atrocity that has been brought down on him from the colonial system and the kind of trauma that we end up with that really, cause much of what we suffer, what we do, what we say, So he was always agitating for the black man's rights. As he said, the work that he's doing is the continuation of the Honorable Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey. So he speaks for Rastafari, and of course, he makes every effort to defend Rastafari in anything. Even today, people still come to the camp for different letters. When it comes to defending their rights, getting their children into school, or getting exemptions from different things, people would come to ask him what they are to say, in terms of defending their rights.
To your knowledge, did Lennard Howell or Mortimer Plano or any of those early leaders, did they have a relationship with King Emmanuel?
They were all brethren.
Okay.
They were good brethren. And many of those brethren would visit King Emmanuel even when he left Bakawal and be in Bulbi. And until recent time, most of the times when some of these other mansions come to visit King Emmanuel, I believe it's I and I that were around him that really emphasized some of those, not accepting them, because there are those that have come, Center Fox, all the elders have come and they reason and them bring them chalice with Jah, and we never hear them quarrel. They were always laughing and talking. Of course, I listened to Jalai, who was one of the elders from the Bingi house, and he gave a very clear and colorful story of their tradition, with Bongo Eddie from Bakawal. And of course, even to when he moved up to Bulbi and they used to visit him and why they stopped. But of course, like I said, it was only the conduct of I and I when we gather in large numbers that got King Emmanuel, cautious about going out. After that last beating, he decided that he will not go out and congregate with them until they come into good, orderly conduct when they are out there. Because he's not in that kind of, hooliganism and those kind of things. He would want I and I to, go out and operate that in a way that Babylon wouldn't have to come and brutalize us. And we need, unless they are going to come and to brutalize us without reason, as they do a lot of times. But those times when he was beaten, it was because of disorderly conduct. And so he advised that, but it's not so much a segregation. I think the brethren, the intermediary brethren, I think they put up a lot of front, much more than King Emmanuel would have wanted. That's my observation of it. But all the brethren, they were there. And I don't hear King Emmanuel disregarding or disrespecting any of the brethren. When he did the conference in 1958, the co-host was Claudius Henry, the Reverend Claudius Henry. You see what I'm saying? And of course, there have been times when the Honorable Prophet Bona G's and all the Bingi elders would have come to see King Emmanuel. I was there the last time they came in about 1993, very very disappointingly, they were not allowed to come in, you know. And I still maintain too that if brethren had facilitated it, King Emmanuel would not have refused them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe I am going to be challenged for saying that, but I say that without any fear, because for me, Rasquasi, I talk about what I understand too from talking with King Emmanuel myself and looking at his teaching and listening to really analyzing the depth of his teaching, which has to be unity. And of course, he is living the liberty of King Emperor Haile Selassie and the Honorable Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey. And that is unity. And it's the only accepted goal. So it means then that those who may have misunderstood and think that he's saying separate yourself and don't unite, I think they need to take another look and to look further into the teaching to see that it has to be, you know, some way. But he never said we were not to unite. He said we have to be careful. Oh God, just like him say, be careful how we sign any document. And we take that to mean everything. That's why when we were called upon to sign the RMO document, many brethren, and why are they afraid to sign the Rastafari Mansions and Organization document? Some of the same long-time reasons that when you go out, go meet with them. So in the now, young brethren are still fostering it as if it is something to hold on to separate from your rest of Rastafari brethren. And, you know, the elders have come to realize that it's not to be that. We have to unite. King Emmanuel is about unity. That's what he teaches. One God, one aim, one destiny. And we can't be brothers and sisters and be divided in the same house. If we all the mansions, or what you want to call them houses, say in my father's house there are many mansions, well, all the mansions better realize that we are in one house. And that house is Rastafari house. So we have to get together to be in it and live as brothers and sisters. You know, we say it's a man and woman tradition, King Alpha and Queen Omega. We have to realize that they exist in a harmony, the Alpha and the Omega. And as brothers and sisters have to exist in a harmony. We don't have to be uniform, but we have to be united.
Key sound.
You don't have to be uniform, but we can have unity.
Key sound. Yeah. So I've heard, you know, because I have Bobo Ashanti brethren as well, many supernatural powers ascribed to Prince Emmanuel and mystical occurrences and things of that nature associated with him. You know, did you experience any of those in your chant, or is there any sounds in that you could share?
Of course, that's quite. They are mystic. They are mystics even about the eye, even about I. So there has to be mystic about King Emmanuel, especially as an elder that has spent that amount of time in that amount of iteration that King Emmanuel does, and coming with such a knowledge, to have come up with such a teaching, such an order as this Melchizedek order that King Emmanuel teaches. He has to have mystics. And many ones have given different, you know, events of the mystics that they, when I was a youngster and I never even think about it. When my brother, when he used to go to Bobo Hill, Jeresi, and he's a Bobo Ashanti now too. But in those days, he was not a Bobo Ashanti. But when King Emmanuel came to Bulbi, all the Rastafari brethren used to go there, whether you have on turban or not. You reach them, know your order, them take off them tam, and them and Jerry's, Bingy George, and all those brethren that I grew up among, they used to go, Lamy, not Bobo Danny. Those are elder brethren that in those early days they used to go there and reason with King Emmanuel as youngsters, and some of them are brilliant high school youths, and you know. But he told me of a time when he went there, and Jah was preparing his altar where he was, and he was standing there. That long time before this new tabernacle, age long. And because I was like about 15 when he was telling me that, or 14. And he said he went there and he never made a sound. When he got there, Jah was there doing what he was doing, and he stood there just waiting for Jah to finish what he's doing and then turn around so that he can, acknowledge him and so forth. But in continuing his task in the same kind of focused manner that he came and saw him in, and he's sure that he never looked around to know, and he never made a sound, and he said, just say, when the time was rolling on and he was beginning to be impatient, I'm coming to you, I'm coming to the man, my Lord. Man is just finishing up this task. And he said he was very surprised that Jah realized that he was there without looking around. That is our experience. I know that one day, those days I used to live in, I had left and I had bought a house in Garvey, and I used to live there. So one day, after we left, I used to just come and spend some days and go forward home to my family. So something came to my mind one day that I thought I had to go and ask Jah this question. Because I was looking through something in my mind, and I was saying that this thing that King Emmanuel teaches us must be well known to other people. Some of my professors that I've listened to, I'm saying this knowledge must be known to them. Why them don't talk it? Why they don't reveal it? Can't be that these are highly educated people are not aware of our African heritage, our African liberty, our colorful past, the importance of the Pan-African movement, but it was never taught. So I said, I was thinking, I said, this must be a trick. So I said to myself, I have to go and ask Dad, I say, how could, these high intellectuals don't know these things? So I called another brethren who had a car, and I said, Jadeli, let me buy some gas and put in your car. Can we go Bobo in? We need to go ask Jah something. So he said, all right. I was not a priest then. I was still a prophet. And he said, all right, Prophet Lamont. And we drove up from Portmore. I came by and I stopped and I hailed my mom because she used to live right up there, and I went straight up to Bobo Hill. So I went, we prayed in the gatehouse, and I told the royal guard, by now I managed to have enough respect in the Bobo camp that I could come to the royal guard and say, my Lord, I would love to see Dada, because it was not easy to see Dada. So when I told them, they went and asked Dada, tell Dada that Prophet Lamont come and I would like to come and see him. So I went up, and while I was there, just started to talk to me, and Jah greet you. Jah is very loving and very joyous when you come, and something like he's just trying to make you feel welcome and not afraid, Yes. So he was pouring out. Jah is always pouring out the welcome and make you know that, oh, you're a God and you're a black nation and, every great thing that you are, so. And so I sat down, and by the time I was to ask him the question, he said, and my Lord, of all the colleges and universities that the man has been to, which of them have ever told you that righteous man is God in flesh and righteous woman is goddess in flesh? Which of them have ever told you of this black agenda. And I was like, how is it that Jah know that's what I was coming to ask him? I mean, some people may say it's coincidence, but it is to me a mystic. To me, I was overwhelmed because I thought he read my mind. That is how I feel, you know. That's my mystic experience with Jah. And then the next one, the same one when him say, someone in the tabernacle go I know the hymn. I just believe, to me, Jah just knows something that day. Yeah. So, you know, there are many mystics that one can give you, but there are some that I know are allegories, because as you know, just as they talk a lot of things about King Emperor Haile Selassie, most of which are quite true, but some, you know, it can be questioned. And of course, you know, it's because there are some things that question logics even with God. You know, and so there are those that want to talk that I may not be totally satisfied with, but I know there are mystics about King Emmanuel.
Talk to us about the Bobo Ashanti stance on repatriation. You know, Bobo Ashanti is very African centered, even up to the modern era. When I went to Ghana, I met many Bobo Ashanti brethren there. Ethiopia, I met Bobo Ashanti brethren there. You spoke about Prince Emmanuel sending Bobo Ashanti across the continent. What is Bobo Ashanti official stance on the return of black people in the diaspora? And talk to us about also the means, you know, the Black Star liner, some of the imagery, 7 miles of Black Star liner, and you know, what are the origins of these traditions within the Bobo Ashanti house?
Of course, you know, Rasquasi, that the Atlantic slave trade, which is the most vicious, wicked, and heinous act in humanity, brought us here. And through the powers of the divine, a man like the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey reincarnated in Jamaica. And he saw the plight. He was able to analyze that this is an orchestration of evil, and it can be approached in some way. And so he became that agitator and started the whole black movement, UNIA, this, that. And, you know, King Emmanuel, as he said all the time, it's Marcus's work that he's continuing in the glorification of Emperor Haile Selassie I. And so from that time until now, as I said to you, he was always agitating. Even before he became this churchical, he was about black people, their rights, and their origination in Africa, the motherland, the fatherland. And his main term was, my Lord, you are Ethiopians. The whole earth was Ethiopia. And don't let anyone tell you that because you're born in Jamaica, you're a Jamaican. No, people don't name Jamaican. People are identified basically in their teaching, in their Babylon teaching, that it's the Negroids, the Caucasides, and the Mongolites. Those are races. So if all of them are from their original places, why is the black man not from his original place that black man is known to be, and that is Africa? So King Emmanuel said, lion born in an alligator pond, a lion same way. Because if you take a mongoose egg and you can't go put it on the corner in a fowl nest, when it hatch out, you're not going to see a chicken. A mongoose are going to jump out of it. So, doesn't matter where we are born, we were birthed in Africa. And so, we being here, we never take a trip. It's not like I'm vacating in Jamaica. I fly to Europe to vacate, have a vacation. We were brought here under terrible and dreadful and wicked and shameful conditions. Sometimes it's a shame to look at what white men did to I and I, just to bring us here. Just what they did to us when they captured us in the land and what we suffered in the Middle Passage. It's a shameful thing to look at what we suffered in the Middle Passage to come here. Many of I and I, foreparents, jumped overboard to their own death rather than to continue in what they were going through on deck, those wicked hell ship that we say is Jesus that brought us here. Because the SS Jesus is one of the ships that I heard brought us here, the steamship Jesus. But when we look at the fact that we have been brought here through vicious means, Rasquasi, and we are not satisfied here because we are not being treated well. We don't have anything. We are second-class citizens. Even in a country that they say is predominantly black, the elites, they are the cream of the crop and they eat the cream and we only get the crop. And only yesterday, everyone in the bank or the supermarket at the cash register was a high-collared person. And today the colonial machine still works. So today King Emmanuel's voice has to be still echoing. 7 miles of Black Star Liner must come in the harbor. For those who are not satisfied to be eating the white man's mess and whooping up the stench without saying it smells bad, and we want to go home, we need to be treated with that amount of rights as a human and a brother to the brotherhood of mankind. And if the world has a conscience, and if white people have a conscience, and if the leaders of the world have any kind of integrity and the slightest form of morality, then in respect to the integrity of their children and just to hide the shame that their children must be facing when they look at what their grandparents and their forefathers have done, and even now what the colonial hand down is doing, then they must by now know that they have to do something to hide their shame and give black people their rights. And as long as it continues, it shows white people as a lower class of human being, a people of a lower moral integrity, because high morals don't do what they are doing. And so we have to agitate. King Emmanuel's voice will ever continue until the evil white world realize that they are being a set of savages and they need to deal with humans better. They need to deal with I and I to show themselves to be human. Because if human is what they say we are, and if humans are to be moral and peaceful people, then they could not be humans. There has to be a difference. So I'm calling on them to be human, so that the work of the Honorable Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey and the work of the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards can be fulfilled, where black people are given their rights and treated equal to other people in this earth. That is when we are going to stop agitating and be singing, because at that time we'll be able to look in our intelligence and say, truly, white people are people too. Because as far as it is right now, Rasquasi, I'm sick in my stomach when I think of those people as being humans. Even as I listen to the French people, and I listen to a lot of other white leaders, when I look at what is happening, GMO food now are in so many things that they are doing to the destruction of people, and most of all, black people. We have to agitate. We have to talk about repatriation for not just black people, all nations. King Emmanuel said, repatriation, every man must return to his own vine and his fig tree, so that we can have a world peace. So that if every man is recognized and respected in his boundaries, and we are all brothers of the same vine, if God is the father of all, then we should be able to live without boundaries. If I'm in Ethiopia and I want to go to China, if we become moral beings with integrity, with decency, then the African must live anywhere in China he wants to go. The Chinese must live anywhere in Africa he wants to go. The German, the French, we are brothers. So if I respect you, then of course, just as you can visit my house and I go forward to my house, visit my homeland, visit my country and be respected as a brother. And when I come to you, I'm respected as a brother. So we don't need no bombs and no nuclear weapons and no guns, because we would have accepted ourselves as brothers and sisters of the same father and mother. And that is what repatriation is to be about. The black man returning to his black homeland, the Chinese to their, the Japanese, the Indian, the Europeans. Let us retreat to our spaces and learn respect for each other and then come together.
Speak to I and I about the Bobo Ashanti. We all love Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, but Bobo Ashanti seem to have an extra special place for Garvey in terms of the teachings and emphasizing his
the Honorable
divinity
Prophet
and
Marcus
prophecy.
Messiah Garvey, whilst we see him as an agitator in the world, because we talk about Bobo Ashanti being parliamentary, governmental, statical, churchical, sabbatical. The red, black, and green is the statical flag. It governs our activities outside of the churchical. So the red, gold, and green is the churchical, and the red, black, and green is the statical. That's the red, black, and green is the Marcus Garvey, as the statesman, as the prophet. Because Marcus Messiah Garvey is in the Trinity for I and I as Bobo Ashanti, as the prophet, as the same Isaiah, as Jeremiah, as John the Baptist, as the voice of the prophets coming through the ages, as King Emmanuel is the order of the Melchizedek coming through the ages, and King Emperor Haile Selassie is the order of the king, the Godhead, coming through the ages in the final analysis now. The Godhead being recognized, as it said in the last days, he shall be known. And I and I have, in our analysis, identified these three individuals, of which the prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey is the prophet who keeps the vision, because it is written that without the vision, the people shall perish. And the vision of the black man's victory, the black man's colorful levity, the black man's intellect and intelligence is mentored greatly by the Honorable Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey. So he for us is a part of that trinity that would fulfill the word, sound, and power, the earthquake, lightning, and thunder, you know, the blessed trinity of divinity, and not to take anything away from the mother of creation, you know, who of course is very powerful. And only in some Rastafari spaces, the mother is not really, really revered. But in a lot of Rastafari spaces, the mother is revered. And there's something that I would say, but I don't want to take up too much time. But I noticed that we are slow in revering the mother. But if you look at the Catholic, who we know have stolen a lot of the original teachings and have profaned it into what they have now, we see the amount of veneration that they give to Mary. It's not something that they developed. It's a part of our ancient African culture to glorify our mother. Because the mother sometimes is seen as the God, just the same as the father.
One flesh.
One flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I have been among the Catholic people, I observe these things and I notice that they have a culture that is our culture, but them whitewash it and cause us not to accept it. But the glorification of the mother must be there. And she has a power. And she has a voice. And it's believed that she can, if she's the mother and this is her son, she can make advocation for the rest of children. Even if a big brother beating up another brother, the mother can come and say, no, don't do that. So that is why they intercede to the mother to make intercession for them, to the son, to the father. So, if I and I would look at that sometimes, we could and should be more inclined to glorify the mother, who's worthy of praise as well. So even when we talk of the Trinity as the prophet, priest, and king, it's only in the matter of that mission that is to be done. But as the mother is always there beside the father, she's understood.
Man, woman, and child.
Yes. Because King Emmanuel say, it's a man and woman kingdom. So if the father is there, the mother has to be there. But Marcus Garvey is a representation of the divine entity in the Trinity. That is why we hold him so highly. Most Rastafari glorify Marcus Messiah Garvey, but they don't see him as a part of the divine entity. But I and I hold him as a part of that divine entity for the word and the prophecy that he has brought about even the recognition of when a king is crowned in Ethiopia, take him for your God and your king, and this is continuous teaching of seeing God through the spectacle of Ethiopia, because it is Marcus that said, just as the Japanese see God through their own spectacle with their Buddha, and the Chinese and all the people with their Krishna and the people with their Jesus, they're seeing God through their own spectacle, their own image. And as a matter of fact, black people seem to be the only race of people that don't really have a God that is in their representation, look like them. We are known to be the only people that praise a God of a different race, a different nation. No, I don't think any other nation has done that. And I think we need to wake up from that slavery mentality to think that the white man can be your God and you are so holy. And everything you talk to some people about, them say, oh, in the name of Jesus. And then Jesus is this white, blue-eyed man. That is a kind of mental derangement. And I think it's a part of the trauma that is holding us back even to now, that we have to get away from. There's no harm in seeing God in your own likeness and image. And as a matter of fact, too, Rasquasi, as I said it before, when I researched, and I have stood in places all over the world, and I have reasoned with great rabbis and great sheikh, high priests, and great religious leaders, and I have called upon them to bring out all their documents that they could have to prove the authenticity of their God, of Jesus, of Buddha, of Krishna, of Baha'u'llah, of all these people, of Muhammad. And none of them were able to prove any greater authenticity than King Emperor Haile Selassie I. Because if they talk about in the holy writings, he is the most highlighted to be the first and upfront contender of that position. You see what I'm saying? Because if we take even our own Bible that talk about the Christ, the God line, being identified as the root and the offspring of David. And if you look at the genealogy in the synoptic versions of King James, I think in Matthew, there is a very good outline of the lineage that goes up to Jesse. So when you come to Jesse, when you come to David, when you come to Solomon, when you come to these icons in the Bible and you check their origin, they are black people. When you check the father of Jesse, Obed, where you go up to Boaz, when you check all these people, when you check them talk about Ruth and Naomi in the Bible, that married to one of the father line that brought the David Solomonic line. It's one of those sisters that were there with Ruth, Orpha and Naomi, that I married to Boaz and one of the and came down to Obed and to Jesse and to David and to Solomon, and from which lineage is King Emperor Haile Selassie I, a direct lineage of King Solomon and Queen of Sheba. Mm-hmm. When I found that in the library when I was at Michael, that brought me even closer to many things too, because I was doing a research on one of my theology projects and was reading in one of the Harper's Bible dictionary, and I was reading on the pontificate, and I was seeing the kind of atrocities and the nastiness that they did in the days of old. And then, somehow I came upon His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, the lineage, the Solomonic lineage. And they were explaining that he was like the 225th king after Solomon or something like that, and the 335th king after, David. And I'm saying, is this something real that a man living in the now can be traced up to Solomon, then it's traced down to the Christ? So I use these things, and when you look at Revelation, if we were talked about in the last days, he shall be identified by an inscription on his vesture that goes down to his thigh. And that inscription is King of Kings and Lord of Lords, conquering line of the tribe of Judah. And we don't see no one but the Ethiopian kings being crowned with that kind of title. I never see no man in England, nor Germany, nor Japan, nor France, nor Portugal crowned with anything like that. So why should I look out of that when I see a black man crowned like that? Why should I value or validate someone else over him? Because the Christ was never crowned with that. When they say he was crucified, Pilate put above his head INRI. We say, I, Negus, rule Israel. They say it is interpreted, the King of Kings. It's not going no further, Even that, they challenged, because Herod said, take it down. Who dare you put that there? Is him going to say, Miss King of Kings, or one never crown him so? And him call himself so. Pilate said to him, what I have written, make it stay. Fine. But we see this man in our modern time following a tradition from that time till now, being crowned. And he's the last man in the earth to be crowned with that title.
Seal.
Who is that man?
Yes.
So I was accused one time of indoctrinating my students when I was teaching. And because every time when I talk something of facts and history that relate to these matters, I would say to two of the students, please go to the office and tell the principal that I said these things, and ask her to validate if I have said anything out of place. You know? So when I was summoned by the ministry, you know, that I am said to have been indoctrinating people, I think there's a teacher there who didn't really like my style too much. But and I remember one morning, one of the little Bobo Ashanti, because when I was teaching at this last school that I taught for 10 years, I brought a lot of the Bobo Ashanti children, because that time the school was not functioning so well in the camp. And being that I was at the school, you know, I asked King Emmanuel, and I asked the parents, I let them know it was all right, I was there. So I started to enroll a lot of the students in the school. So one morning at the devotion, granted that I pointed out to them that they should allow them to sit in the classroom and just, you know, call them out when it's time to discuss school matters. A lot of time the teachers force them to go to the devotion, you know, because they don't really regard their religion, you know, as anything to be respected. Mm-hmm. So they would just chase them out and say, go to devotion, you know. Of course, sometimes they would leave the Muslims sitting in the classroom and so forth. And I didn't want to create any big fuss. I told them, they continued to send them out. One morning, one of Priest Rabbi's son said, when they were singing the national anthem, he said, Ethiopia, 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 land we love. And I tell you, the principal went in a rage. And I was at the gate trying to get the students to come through quickly, because I was the dean of discipline. So, you know, she called me loudly. And I rushed around and she said, come and talk to your people. And, you know, because I heard the boy from where I was. So I said, go around to the back of the line. You know, why did you disturb the devotion like that? So he left from the front and he went around to the back of the line, and, you know. But I quietly went up to the principal and I said, Miss, he's not one of my people, he's your people. His parents sent him here to you. And he was not being disrespectful. He was just singing what he learned. It's his culture. It's I am very sorry that he shouted out, he said it out in the anthem, the Jamaica anthem, and I still hold you as the cause of it, because I've been saying over and over, leave them in the classroom. They are not to be forced in this kind of Jesus worship. You know, it's their rights. So, you know, I wouldn't go down too heavily on him, because that's what he lives every day. He's an Ethiopian. It sounds very out of place to him to come and say Jamaica. We are told, never give up a continent for an island. We say Jamaica is Egypt. It's a, you know, alligator pond. So our culture is very, very serious. So a Bobo Ashanti child would never say Jamaica land we love. You know, so the culture for us is what it means for our African regard and respect. Marcus Garvey say, eat black, walk black, talk black. And that is the same thing King Emmanuel teach.
Marcus Garvey was a man that dealt with cooperative economics. The Bobo Ashanti order for a long time was known for the production of brooms and other handicrafts. How important are economics to the Bobo Ashanti, and how was Prince Emmanuel able to maintain Bobo Hill in terms of the economic foundation that was set there? If you could speak more to the the economic development?
Of course, we are very skillful in handicraft. And the broom, especially in those days, and still remained one of our main source of economic, activity. So we have managed to be quite self-reliant for the greater part of our tradition that I know. And so Broom was able to maintain much of what we did in those days. And that was supported by the different kind of craft that we did. And of course, there were those of I and I who had farms out there because, Bobo Ashanti hail from every quarters of Jamaica, in every parish, and ones have farms and so forth. And, granted that we never sold, what was brought to the camp was not basically sold. King Emmanuel would, those days, he would give a lot of things to people. But ones who have their farm out there would maintain their personal life by that. In the camp, we would stick most to what we do. Empresses would make a lot of mats, and they make big area mats from straw and, different kinds of mats and different kind of craft item. Every Bobo Ashanti Empress can knit or crochet and do a various of these handicraft. Bobo Ashanti, they are skillful in making sandals, we make robes, turbans, a variety of things. But also, Raskwasi, what a lot of people don't realize that Bobo Ashanti was supported, to our livity has been supported by the brethren. Whilst we were dependent on Broom and what we did, it's a very great, benevolent livity that we lived, especially those days when Jah was there seated and things were more blended as a family. It's not now when Bobo Ashanti is all about, because we have never regathered in that mass number since, 1994, when King Emmanuel Estrad, many Bobo, for that reason, sort of lived out there. But we support the foundation. Bobo Ashanti support the foundation, from wherever they are, and gave a lot of strength to King Emmanuel in those days. So we that kind of family structure helped us to live the kind of way we live. It still goes on to a great extent today. Where brethren can support, brethren send their support to the foundation. Not as used to, because like I say, it's different. The operation is different. Accountability not so much, So, but we are getting there again. We are really, really on path to bring ourselves again to that first, unity, that love. We say that, that gumminess that we had, So that's what we are working towards right now, and that's why the Elders Council is there, trying to be a moral voice, not to take over anything, but just to say to people, let's do things transparently, let's do things uprightly, with respect and regard for each other. And that's the same voice they give me to go into the Rastafari mansions and organization with. When the elders gave me to go ahead, that's the charter they gave me. As it is written by King Emmanuel, freedom, redemption, and international repatriation, and oneness and respect for each other. Be a unit, be a family. Together we are strong. So that is where we are echoing the voice to Rastafari right now, to stay together, to put aside everything, and let the unity be the only aim that we could seek to have right now. That's the Bobo Ashanti tradition, you know, that oneness. And whilst we remain a part of the RMO, Rastafari Mansion and organizations, that will forever be our aim, because the aim for I&I is nothing else but redemption, freedom, redemption, and international repatriation with reparation. And King Emmanuel has a special idea. He has outlined a 10-point agenda, a 4-point agenda that he sent to one of those Durban conferences that has been well recognized. It's being adopted in a lot of ways by this present repatriation and reparation committee that the government has. But of course, Rastafari, as usual, is always disrespected, and regardless of what we do, and they will always take what we say as they would want to take what we have, you know, without trying to give us any respect or recognition. But of course, the idea of repatriation has been well outlined by King Emmanuel. He has communicated with several African leaders who agreed to that. There are more than 5 African states that have agreed to accept I&I, you know, in a repatriation movement, you know, to go forward to Africa. And of course, what Rastafari need to be doing now, of which I think the RMO is to focus, is to create a secretariat, an international secretariat of Rastafari that can lobby with African leaders to work out an agenda for repatriation and reparation, you know, and even if we don't get Babylon reparation, we can get ourselves together and organize an agenda and create repatriation and build Africa and build a black world of people. You understand me? But we are agitating seriously for reparation as well. But repatriation needs to be worked out properly, you know, because our African brothers that are in Africa, they are not very much aware of our situation and our plight here, and our ideals, and how much we are African in our heart, soul, and mind. Someone say I'm not African because I was born in Africa. I'm African because Africa was born in me, and we can't change that.
Kwame Nkrumah, yes.
Kwame Nkrumah. So, you know, we have to get ourselves together where we can meet with these leaders to let them understand how we are going, the kind of preparation that is to be made with the diaspora and with the motherland to create a smooth transition from this slave ground to our homeland. And that is what I think is to be the main focus. A coming together of Rastafari, an agenda being worked out that we can present to Africa. It's not so much to Babylon government, because we are not asking them to accept us anywhere. We're asking them to send us where we are to be accepted. So it's where we are to be accepted that we need to go to and create the proper presentation, the proper stage for the coming home.
For most of the public, their exposure to Bobo Ashanti would have come through the musical fraternity. There are several reggae artists that wear the turban and sing, music. And for most of the people who are not from Jamaica, that is their only exposure to Bobo Ashanti. As a Bingy man, we learned early that Prince Emmanuel was not a fan of reggae music. I wanted the eye to speak to, what was the position on reggae music, and how the eye cite the representation within reggae music of ones that are holding to that turban order, and is there any connection between those ones and the Bobo Ashanti house right now?
Yes, of course, Rasquasi. We have a brethren who had a record label called Star Trail, Prophet Bello, and he was a very supportive brethren, among other brethren that were there, and he had these artists around him, and he being Bobo Ashanti, and they being Rastafari inclined, and many of them started to try the Rastafari tradition. But of course, Bobo Ashanti are people that are always culturing. We have you know, our main part of us is to be culturing people towards their black self and, you know, the importance of being an Ethiopian. And so I know Bella must have been culturing them. And then because Bella being a Bobo Ashanti, and I going around him too, other young Bobo Ashanti, you know, and they have the culture. And a lot of the young Bobo Ashanti who were born in it, they are very, 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 very founded, and they can culture you in the deepest Bobo Ashanti tradition. And they have been around these artists. I remember there was this prophet that we had named Tango. He was quite much around, you know, Capleton. Capleton is the first Rastafari, the first artist. He was not a Rastafari then when he came. The side of his head was trimmed like that, and he had, you know, hair on the top, you know, trim low, and he was the first artist that got the opportunity to speak to King Emmanuel. He had a little tape, he recorded him, you know, while he was talking, and he asked Jah, you know, if he could call his name in his songs, and he said, "Wilds of Love, for as long as you are going to make it upright," you know. And he got the permission, and he started, and, you know, a lot of other artists came. It started to be a thing where all the artists started coming to Bobo Hill. And of course, a lot of them put on their turban, you know, until in the last, after Capleton, you know, Sizzler, Jamaican, you know them. And they would come. And of course, they all started to sing the Emmanuel culture and put on their turban. They have never lived, you know. Sizzler built a house there, burned down afterwards. He was one of the most steadfast and regular ones. You know, still didn't manage to be a priest because, of course, you know, they have to fulfill their reggae duties. And they don't bother even believe that because they come to Bobo camp and they have on turban and they're artists. There are some Bobo Ashanti who from them enter the gate is fire straight on, and if them there 10 days or 10 days of fire. There are some Bobo Ashanti that never lets up. They never give up burning fire against reggae. Because them call it Dulce and Satbatan. It is what it is even to today. It's not going to be easy for some Bobo Ashanti to give up the fact that reggae is not Rastafari music. And of course, there are those people who try to say reggae is Rastafari music. Whilst it could be Rastafari secular music, it's not Rastafari solemn music. It's not the churchical music, because the Nyabingi is the churchical order. But I maintain, though, Rasquasi, that the reggae music has been a great medium, not just because by Bobo Ashanti, but those other Rastafari brethren that have echoed the voice of Emperor Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari, you know, to the world of people. Because we must remember that Rastafari is who we are. And reggae music has done its part in bringing Rastafari to a certain pinnacle, you know. So I am not going to say it is Rastafari solemn music, but I never be a hypocrite. I could not deny the fact that reggae music has played a part in identifying the Rastafari culture to ones and ones out there. But for the fact that it is ridden upon by every and anyone, those with strange and funny ways, those of all different color and clime, and it has echoed sentiments of destruction and derogativeness and nudity and profanity. It couldn't be seen as Rastafari music. It takes a place in the category that it has managed to put out those reggae rhythm that carry proper lyrics. And of course, we can identify it with those. And there are those that even have some Nyabingi sound to it. Tempo may vary a little, but there are some reggae music that have the Nyabingi tinge to it. So whereas we truly say that we burn reggae, we burn it in the sense that it couldn't come in our tabernacle. It is not to be used in the glorification when we come to give divine praises to the Most High, King Emperor Haile Selassie I. There has to be a solemnness when we really want to highlight his true divine person. But while we can go out to secularize and to entertain ourselves in a space where we are not being lewd and indecent, and I don't see any harm in Ras Tafari, whether you be a Bobo Ashanti, shaking your legs to reggae music that is depicting moral, standards.
There's a Bob Marley movie that is coming out that is going to introduce the wider world to Rastafari because of his contribution. Did Prince Emmanuel ever make any utterance on Bob Marley? Do you know how he felt about Bob Marley? And what does the eye feel? How does the eye feel about the Honorable Robert Nesta Marley and maybe this movie coming?
Of course, there have been words passed between Bob and King Emmanuel. Words from him to King Emmanuel, word from King Emmanuel to him. I mean, Honorable Empress Rita Marley has been there. Ziggy Marley has been there, I heard that there was a time when Jah had sent and called him, or he left, he wanted to go and see Jah, but in reaching nearby, he changed his mind and went to Cane River. So he never actually came the time when he was coming, when he should have come. He never came. He never managed to make it. He passed sometime shortly after. Jah bless his soul. He transitioned. But Jah never gave any destructive word against Bob Marley, as if to say he was doing something dangerous or wicked or cruel. He saw him as a son and would have wanted him to embrace a little more of the culture in terms of the divinity. I don't even think he was going to tell him to stop singing reggae. I don't think that was his intention, even if he wanted to see Bob Marley. Just as he has spoken to the other artists and him never tell them stop singing reggae, I don't think he was going to tell Bob to stop singing reggae. He saw him as a disciple. He saw him as a voice of prophecy, because he was saying things that were quite novel at those times. He stood up with a seriousness that I know King Emmanuel must have respected and recognized, because many of the way he stood up, it was almost even like how King Emmanuel himself, was standing up and hitting out against corruption and the injustice and atrocities against not just Rastafari, but black people. So I never heard any derogative statement from King Emmanuel about Bob Marley. I never heard it. I don't think anyone has. People may try to coin things their way, but there is no record of him saying anything destructive about Bob Marley.
So we give thanks. It's a great honor. This is our second interview. You came on the Lion Voice Network and we spoke on that platform. This is a larger platform. It's been a great honor. once again. And this is the first time meeting the eye physical, although we've been working together over 2 years.
So true.
Consistently, so I feel like I know the eye for
Long time.
long Iowa.
As a matter of fact, I hardly realized that it's different from the other times when we were talking.
Yes,
Kwasi.
yes.
It's almost the same thing like when we are on the virtual space.
Yes.
You know.
So please, just any final words, sound to this generation. You know, as the elder Bobo Ashanti priest, greatly respected in the island of Jamaica. You know, what is your sound to the global Pan-African community? We're in a time of war, great indecision, you know, man knows not where they are drifting. What is the eye sound, you know, in these times for a black family worldwide?
Black people, unity is our only accepted goal. There's nothing we can do if we are not united. And there's everything that we can do if we are united. It's a simple matter to defend our rights, to take our rights when we are united. And I'm saying to black people, leaders of Africa, leaders of black movements, leaders of the Rastafari movement, come together. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain if we come together. Because Rastafari, no matter what we do, it's growing. Rastafari is growing, and there is no real direction being given by the elders. So I and I as Rastafari must know that the rights of black people is incumbent, it's up on the head and shoulder of Rastafari as Pan-Africanist. So we have to understand the Pan-African agenda and understand the Rastafari scope or position to the Pan-African movement. And the Pan-African movement must get that clear understanding of the importance of Rastafari to bring to pass the reality of the freedom and true development of the motherland of Africa.